Hello, we're doing the iteration planning meeting. So let's get started. Put y'all back over here. So we've got, what's our velocity? Our velocity is 8. Meaning our volatility is not calculated, but obviously high, 5, 13, 4, and 10. Alternating variability. So let's just go down and see anything that's not estimated or assigned. So add more detailed documentation. I think that is just Vishal's, the one, no, you opened it. This one got prioritized a long time ago and it's just been hanging out. And it's waited. So there it is. Maybe maybe some of our new team members will pick up some of these that have been hanging out for months with nobody picking them up. And this is another one, I think, adding some logging. I'm planning as one of my OKRs to look into our observability. So hopefully I can, in the upcoming weeks and months, plow through some of these logging related ones and improve the state of the world. That one's also weighted though, so we don't really need to talk about it. These are all currently assigned and weighted. This one's not assigned. Implement APIs to verify agent mapping. This is one of the ones on the policies track, right, Hanar? It's weighted. Anything to say about this, or it's just you left it unassigned?
No, I think I've left it unassigned. I've only assigned myself like 2 things. One which is going review through you, and the other one which I've decided implementing.
Which I think that makes sense. I don't think we should like make a big deal about proactively assigning ourselves. I like the approach of just we should, for the most part, be generalists on the team. Like most of us can work kind of full stack, at least try stack. You work on Go and the back end, and I can sort of do the front end, Enrique does the back end. So I like the approach of just people can pick whatever's at the top of it for whatever they need to pick up. So what do y'all think about that? It's a reasonable approach.
I think so. I think that we should take an issue when we are going to start working on it. So if we are out of we are on PTO, maybe someone else can pick it.
Yep. And then we'll obviously be talking to our new PM about what she thinks about process and all her ideas on it. Upgrade VS Code fork. This one is, okay, not weighted. Let's look at it. This is very unrefined for being marked refined. But is it just a link to it, or
I could say that that issue probably needs a bit more context before we can actually do an estimate.
Yeah. Some of them are like there's the actual upgrade and then there's just like cutting it. And sometimes we, the actual process of doing the rebase or what, all of that. And then there's like actually penning the gem. So I don't know which of these are. And it says, I think we defer this. So he took it out of the epic. he changed the description.
Oh,
Did we just forget to unprioritize this?
wait a minute. I think that this one is about taking the VS Code fork itself and pulling the latest changes from upstream. So yeah, the idea is that we are gonna defer doing that upgrade and focus on improving the upgrade process because it is too expensive right now. Even
Yeah.
like, and we cannot even like we would have to break down that issue into smaller ones. The fork upgrade process is too expensive to keep it in a single issue.
So we just like forgot to deprioritize this after that discussion.
Yeah, it's very likely.
Do you have a link handy to the issue where we're going to revisit the upgrade process?
No, I would have to look for it, but I can do it now.
That's fine. I'll just put it in here. Yeah, I'm not even gonna write a note. I'm just gonna deprioritize it. So
I pasted the epic on the Zoom chat.
you what? Oh, in the Zoom chat? Okay.
Yes.
Look good. Refined, remove iteration. It doesn't have a weight. I think it still belongs in the next 1 to 3 releases milestone. Like we need to do this. We're not like throwing it in the backlog. So I think that's it.
Yeah, that looks good.
The iteration doesn't auto update. There we go. Okay. So, yep, that was that one. Now we have the one in ours. This one is a small one that I prioritize. It's like a follow-up from one of Paul's feedback on the adding the fields to the Workspace create form that I needed some front-end help with. Like it works fine in the app and GraphQL, but it breaks all the tests, and it's I need your Paul to help me understand why. So that was just sitting there. Settings page. All right. So now we're getting to the ones you just prioritized, Enrique, right?
Yeah.
I guess
Yes,
just a
definitely.
You want to talk about them?
Yeah, so the first issue here is about creating the Rails route and page where we are bootstrapping the view application. Basically, this is the scaffolding to implement this feature. Basic requirements, we have to set up the Rails view, the JavaScript files that we have to where we load the view application. I think that we have to handle some permissions because this page shouldn't be available to developers, only to group maintainers, group owners, and instance admins. And eventually, we are gonna link to that page from the sidebar menu.
Okay. So there's a new route, and the way that works is like, do we usually just check whether it's shown in the controller? That's how we control the conditional display of the front end stuff.
Yes, yes, and I think that the controller should have maybe a respawn 404 if the user doesn't have the correct permissions.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of other examples like how I haven't used the new menu framework at all. Like we worked a little bit on the old one when our group was responsible for it like 3 years ago, but I haven't touched a new one at all. So if I do any of these, I'll have to learn it.
Yeah, but this issue doesn't include the adding the menu.
Oh,
That's another issue.
so so this is just if you directly type the URL.
That's right.
Okay, got it. You're just reusing the same screenshots for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe I could have just like use a clip of the image, but I just like pasted the screenshot for I was lazy.
Yeah, that's fine with me. So this is going to be like some back end and front end work, basically just the route, and it's going to involve creating a controller too.
Yes. It's a mix of both, backend and front end. But I can take care of that. It's something that I can handle.
All right. We just updated this is like route and controller. All right. You ready to estimate? Anybody have any more questions? No? Okay. So I don't even know if you've done this with us, Taylor. We do rock, paper, scissors style. And then you throw a modified Fibonacci number. So 1, 2, 3, or 5. Or you could go up to 8, and basically like a 5 is the biggest that we will prioritize. Throwing 8 or higher is effectively like you're doing a veto on it and say, no, I think this is too big or too complex and needs to be broken down. If it's a 5, like it's maybe this is complex and involves a lot, but it's either can be broken down or not worth being broken down further, so we'll prioritize it anyway. And then the lower ones are lower effort and complexity. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I would assume I don't do that except for design issues.
Everybody does. You can
everybody does. Okay.
Yeah, throw a number if you want. Like, because the point of this meeting is the weights like flow into our process and they allow us to calculate the velocity, but the real point of this meeting is this, discussing it. And like you may say, oh my God, no, this is very complex because of some design thing that we're not even aware of. And like, you know, you should have already mentioned that, but like if we were like, no, you could have still thrown like a 5 or an 8 and say, no, I really think we should break this down, and then that would force the discussion, right? So you have as much of a say, and at the end, like if you don't have to vote, but you can. And if everybody else throws something off, it's fine to say, yeah, I really didn't know. I'm not familiar with this. I'm fine with whatever everybody else said. Cool.
Voting is my right.
What?
Just the chat.
I'm not looking at the chat. Okay. What does it say? You're gonna.
Voting is a right, so yeah, we should. And a duty as well. Yeah, I'm making the AP into political. Sorry.
Yeah,
They
had the voting here in California. There was like a polling booth in a garage, like halfway down my block. They had coffee, but I still haven't got my ID. So I couldn't get coffee or vote in California yet. All right, let's do this. Ready? Pissed up? Ready, Vishal?
I just joined too late to actually make an estimate, guess, so I'll pass this one.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Hold them up. Okay. Hunar, we all got 3s. Hunar's the outlier. with balloons out of 2? Do you think it should
No,
come?
no, no. I initially just understood that this is a scaffold, right? So I just gave it a 2, but I'm okay with the 3.
Yeah,
So
it's like our velocity is 8. Whenever I fall into the trap of thinking, oh, things aren't that hard, like I get re-reminded of it, like the 3 weeks I took to add the 2 fields on the create workspace page.
right.
I could give it a 2, like if the application wasn't GitLab.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like, man, I'm like lucky to average a point every 2 days on average, probably. This is my first velocity. Okay, so that's all cool. There we go. And that's the other point of this. It's to get a collective feel for like, what is a point to us? Because it's not related to time. That defeats the purpose of it. It's like, what do we feel? And what's our collective predictive ability of what do we feel we can do a given story at? And that's like flows into the secret sauce that makes our velocity actually mean something. It's like it's real for our team, whatever we feel. So this collective talking about the points helps establish that culture on our team. Like, what does a point mean to us? Cool. All right. So, whoops, I forgot to give that one. So we're at a 3. Nice. And then you got a few more, Enrique. All right. And the process pontification. This is the one we just did, right? Nothing on boards.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So
I think the second one is the sidebar menu.
there we go. Sidebar menu. Want to talk about this one, Enrique?
Yes. So basically, this is about adding the menu option that links to the remote development settings page. I have very little technical context of the requirements here. I know that it is displayed based on the permissions of the user, but I've never used the menu framework that we developed to add options. So I don't know. I don't have a good grasp of the complexity there.
Right. And as I just said, I've used the old one some, but this is the complete rewrite. But presumably they made it kind of easy to use, and it's mostly going to be a matter of just figuring out what we need to do. But you know, that can be incorporated in the effort and complexity of the estimate. I don't think it'll be really hard, but we'll have to look at examples, maybe ask some people in Slack if there's questions.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a lot of complexity either.
Okay. And all of this has to be behind the feature flag too, right?
That's right.
Is
That's
it-
right. I think
that's
that
No, go ahead.
if either Hunar or I merge the first merge request, that's the person who is gonna introduce the feature flag. in
So
the
Vishal, like there was the one thread you started where you said you didn't want this to necessarily the whole menu item to be behind the feature flag because we might want to add some other things to it.
Yes. So, like, I would like the sidebar menu not to be behind the feature flag because I don't want to tie it with the feature flag, which is related to the CI, like the authorization, new authorization strategy that we are doing. And the reason for that is because we have some new settings which we want to introduce, which are not really related to the authorization thing that Unar is working on. For example, enabling and disabling extensions marketplace, overriding the extension marketplace, and so on and so forth. So I would like us to keep this as it is, the sidebar menu not in the feature flag, but like on the screen, whatever you're seeing as group agents, right? Like that entire section can be behind the feature flag, but everything else on that page to not be behind the feature flag.
So but
Okay.
does that create the situation where like there'll be this menu but with nothing in it?
Temporarily,
Is
but
it-
we are like literally just maybe some days, because as soon as that is introduced, we can follow up on adding an option for, enabling, disabling the extensions marketplace over there.
So
But
we
yes,
could
there might be a scenario for some time.
So we could either be okay with that, or we could say this also needs to involve figuring out how to like conditionally not display the whole item if it's empty, which
Empty.
I don't know if there's support for that, probably not.
What do you think if we first, like, let's say that the work for the other settings that Vishal is introducing comes after we add this menu. Then we put
We
the
can
menu
remove the
behind a
feature flag
feature
over here,
flag.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
once
or-
like you said. Mhm.
What I was gonna say is for this story, like put it at both levels, like put it around this so that like even if it were removed from the menu, the top level menu level, this page would still like just be empty or something. But then put it at the level of the remote development entry. And then when Vishal comes around and wants to add his, he'll remove only the feature flag that's around the displaying of top level, but then this will still not show up. Yeah, so do you want to make a note of that?
Okay, you're gonna write it down.
Yeah, well, I'll just try to write it live here and y'all can tell me if I get it right. We may soon add other what is the name of the feature flag that we're adding for this? We have that off the top of our head? Hunar?
I don't remember, but it definitely has group authorization somehow mentioned in it.
Therefore, add other option, add that makes sense to you, Enrique, at least, since you'll be implementing this.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. So, yeah, and that's another point of a sync IPM. So like we can have these quick discussions and things don't fall through the cracks and we have to do rework, which is slow and laborious and painful because it's GitLab, because of Mars. All right, we
This
ready
is
to
not recorded, right? We are definitely shooting a lot of
It's
GitLab
not.
right now.
It's just not like I'm saying anything that's not true. We have a lot of process. Okay, we ready to wait this one? All right. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, everybody's at the 2. That's
Two and a
Why
lot
don't I
close.
have balloons? I'm pissed off. Why don't I have balloons?
Everybody's gonna
I
be.
feel that you have, yeah, it should appear there.
This is
No
bullshit.
balloons for Vishal.
Yeah,
Okay.
Taylor's ones also come.
So that's it. That's a 2. All done with that one. Great. We just did this one. And next this one. Is this readable? Do I need to bump my font or good?
It
Okay.
is readable. But well, maybe you can do like 110, like zoom in a little bit. Yeah,
Okay. You want to talk about this one, Enrique?
Yeah, so this is the first issue that is actually about implementing the agents mapping interface. The idea is that it's gonna set up the table to display the allowed agents, the ones that are mapped directly to the group. It implements pagination in the table. It displays an empty state when there are indirect agents set up. And there are other technical details. I probably shouldn't have put them in the acceptance criteria, but I'm gonna make sure that you can also open the page in mobile screens. But it's not something that should take like a considerable amount of effort. So it's like it shouldn't weigh too much on the complexity of the issue. This doesn't consider adding the actions. It doesn't consider adding like the all agents columns. It's only like setting up the initial table with the GraphQL queries
And the empty state as well?
and the empty state. Yes.
Okay, table has an empty state, it says it here, got it. Okay, and the plan we discussed is like, we may or may not have the GraphQL queries for the backend working at this point, so if we don't, you can do the Apollo, is it like the Apollo Max or something to fake it out as a placeholder?
Yeah, I can implement a client-side resolver. I can agree with Hunar on what is the shape of the data. If it is not in the design document, and then based on that, I can implement that UI.
Okay, so we all understand that. I don't think we need to write it down. And that doesn't impact the complexity significantly. The estimate.
Actually, maybe like what happens here is that we have to create a second issue, where we have to replace the client-side resolver with the actual query. There should be like some cleanup issue in there.
Okay, but not until we actually get to this point and you're ready to start it and the query doesn't exist yet. If it does, then we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this one? All right, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. Is that a 2, Hanar? Yeah.
That was very sneaky of Una. He could have pulled that also for 3.
Yeah. Oh, two. Yeah, 3.
It could have been
Yeah, your hand was like this, like it almost felt very deliberate.
That's a good trick. I'll just sneakily bring in the third one in next time. Yeah.
Do you want to argue for a 2? Everybody else had a 3. Hanar?
I'm okay with moving to a 3, but I just want to know like where's the uncertainty with this one? Maybe I missed that. Like, or like what's the possible thing that can make this slower? Like I'm not sure. Sorry, I missed some details.
Go ahead,
Please
Enrique.
go ahead, Chad. No,
No.
I was going to say that I see 3 as 1 to 2 days of work. Then I have to, for example, discuss with you, Hunar, what is the shape of the data, then implement the client-side resolvers.
I see.
And then like on top of that, then I start working on the actual components and connecting everything. And the empty state, the pagination is like not always like super easy. So but pagination makes it a little bit more complex.
Oh,
That's
so
where
okay. Regarding the pagination, right? I'm just wondering if we need pagination at all, because I was looking at how other cluster agents listing pages are done, right? Like they aren't paginated. Like although I am talking about project specific at the group level, there'll probably be more. I'm just wondering whether pagination is something we can, maybe implement later.
sure
Just
we can break it into a separate issue, definitely.
Well, I think you're saying like not even in this first iteration, just leave it unpaginated because we never think we'll have that many.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, then in that case, chat, could you remove the pagination from the acceptance criteria?
Yeah.
I would still leave it as a 3. But yeah, it's like way more simple. It's simpler now.
Yeah, like my thoughts on it, like you should avoid trying to associate points to an amount of time because that that has perverse impacts on the velocity for various reasons. Like you can read up on it, but under the covers, yeah, it's that. For me, it's just that this is a front end page. There's like a lot that's going to go into it. Writing the tests consumes a lot of time. And you just have to make sure it's all right. It's going to be like writing a lot of code and having it all come together. So it's not necessarily uncertainty. Like there's various reasons that contribute to a higher weight. In this case, it's not uncertainty. It's just there's some complexity and effort there.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't done front end work, like, so I'm not entirely sure about like, the complexity and like the amount of things that must be done, right? So, but yeah, like I think if we can like eliminate some of that with like some good to haves, which I think pagination would be in this case, I think yeah, it's just better, right? Like, might as well get rid of all that.
And this is not adding the buttons, right?
No. I see that now Hunar is just like, oh my God, it's just like some HTML and CSS. Where are you
I
getting
tried
like
to
that
write
free
this.
from?
I spiked on it, so I know I'm not going to say anything on that. So I know how messy this can be.
Oh yeah, wait until you have Paul and Enrique review some of your front end code. It'll be another week of work. It's like, well, you should really do it this way.
Here's a patch.
Your thing. Okay, so we're 3 on this one.
I think so.
All right. And this one, right? Agents available for mapping. So this is still got a to do here. I'm going to remove that.
Thanks.
This is
So this is just like a continuation of extending the table by first adding the tabs component to switch between the unmap and all agents. That component is conditional. It depends on the permissions of the user. I think that all agents should only be available for group owners and instance administrators. We have to display the number of available agents in the tabs component as a badge. Then we add also a new column to that table to display the availability of the agent. Well, it's availability. I think that technically speaking is more like if the agent is map or map, because we are displaying everything in that table. I think that we can build on top of what we did in the previous one, because we will be building setting up the table component. So it will be mostly about adding the tabs.
okay. That sounds good. Sorry, I got a phone call right in the middle of that, but hopefully the rest of you got most of it. Agents to display in the table. And So the difference between all and allowed, like I may have skimmed over that initial requirements, like what does it mean that they can see an agent but not be allowed to use it? What is that scenario?
Probably Taylor can answer it better than I, but my interpretation is that that is not mapped to the group, right? When it is
Yeah,
blocked.
so all agents, just all the agents that are available, allowed agents are the ones that have been mapped. So it's acting like an allow list. So it's just users can use the agents under allowed tab. Those are the ones users in the group can create a workspace with. All agents just shows you every single agent that's available.
And what happens to the ones that are already there in the allowed agent list? Will it show up over here and not have that? Oh, it will have the block one. Sorry, that I just saw that.
Yeah, so the availability is there to distinguish what the status of. I didn't want to use the term status because that could be confused with the status of the agent itself. We could, again, this terminology can be revised if needed, but going along the concept of an allow list, that's why it's that extra columns there.
Okay, yeah, we don't want to micromanage the design, but like an offline question for me maybe would be like, why isn't this like available agents and usable or something like that? But maybe that discussion already happened. Okay, but names are easy to change in the future if that doesn't affect the estimating of this. Any other questions on it? Okay, I'm ready. 1, 2, 3. When you got Hanar, you're doing it again. 3.
Where is Hunar's hidden finger?
I had a
Um,
3.
So I had a 2, and I think Enrique had a 2, but
That's right.
Vishal and Hunar had a 3.
Yeah, I just thought.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Vishal.
I just thought there would be a lot of tests that you would have to write to make sure the allow and the block list are properly shown up over there. That was my reasoning for a 3. But if that's not the case, then I'm fine going down to a 2.
Yeah, like my gut feel is this like would actually be a little less complexity than the previous one, because you're not laying all the foundation for the tests and stuff, and it would be more like filling out and adding some new tests. But why did you throw a 2, Enrique?
Because this is gonna be the same table that we built in the previous issue, and the difference is in the GraphQL query. So when the user switches to all agents, we are removing the filter that we are applying to the query and just like fetching all the data. That's like my assumption based on the API design that I saw in the technical doc. So probably it should be more straightforward from that point of view. Then we add a new column, the availability one, but that's also like easy. So I think that is the same. I share your opinion. It's just like we are building on top of the previous work.
And the tab component, like I used the simple tabs in the prototype, and that component's pretty easy to use. You just wrap it around there and add the template into it. So I'm personally fine with the 2. Does anybody want to argue with the 3? No? Okay. Because we don't want Enrique to like pull our velocity too high with, finishing all of these stories in a week.
Well, I can take a day off.
Yeah, you should do that. All right. I don't know where we are, so I'm gonna refresh the page. Let's see which ones we've waited. Oh yeah, scroll down. Okay, this one, right?
That's right.
Okay. Take it, Enrique.
Yes. So this is the issue about implementing the actual mapping function. We're gonna have at this point write a client-side resolver to mock the GraphQL mutation that we are gonna use there. Since this is mapping, I think that it should only appear in the all agents table. So when I click when the user click it, it should display a loading indicator, and then the status of the agent doesn't like changes, like it goes from block to allowed, and it should appear then in the other table, in the allowed agents table. Let me see if I can provide any kind of technical context in there. I think that the most significant part, like the significant complexity in this is about implementing the initial GraphQL mutation resolver and implementing the mutation and changing the data client side.
And not changing the data client side, did you say? Or
And changing the data client side. So when you're working with GraphQL in the front end, you have the concept of a cache. And rather than just like sending the data to the server and getting the updated version back, you have to change the data in memory and then send the changes to the backend. So you have to write all of that mutation logic and the data transformation logic in the client.
right. I don't know that I've worked a lot with that. Like that's all just in the Apollo section, in the Apollo declaration section and callbacks and stuff.
If it is in there,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that when you call mutate, you have to pass a mutator function to change the cache.
Right. Okay, I don't know that I worked with a lot of the client-side stuff, but there should be examples of it. You just have to write it and test it, right?
Yeah, this is not like breaking ground or anything like that. It's something that we do everywhere in the GitLab application. Like, it was just like giving some context of what it entails to be done.
So one question, like I assume so far at least there's been no concept of polling or auto updating this if other clients make changes to the state on the back end. So how does it handle that? Say like somebody has already made this available and then you try to click on it again. Does it just Apollo transparently handle it and it just resolves its state, or do you have to put error handling for that?
Well, that depends on the behavior of the mutation. What happens if I call the mutation to map an agent and the agent is already mapped?
Uh-huh.
What does the mutation returns? So the return value of the mutation is what's gonna change the data in the client.
Okay, does that mean we need to like maybe pull out would you want to, like, it shouldn't break, like it should work. It should either just like automatically switch it to it with no question or do something. Do you want to ensure that whatever logic needs to be added to the mutation to ensure that is added as part of the story? Or
I think so. I think that's it should be like the mutation should be idempotent, right? Like if you pass an object that is already mapped, it shouldn't be like raising an error to the user. Like it just like do the right thing, and it's like if the agent is mapped, it shouldn't apply the operation again.
so if we don't have that logic, do you want to add the scope to this story, like put a acceptance criteria to ensure that that is in the mutation and it supports it as part of this, and if not, to add it?
So should we do it in this issue, or should we go to the issue that implements the mutation?
Yeah, like just add an item to that. Which one is that, Hunar? So it'll be in the epic for this one. The create destroy mutation APIs, is it this one, Hunar?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So we're saying what happens if we try to create a mapping or that already exists?
Yeah, it's handled as a part of that. It's an
Okay.
edge case that I'm returning an error for.
Is that noted here in the acceptance criteria of the story?
It's noted in the technical design as a part of the implementation detail of the API.
All right, we just put it here to, since we're discussing it.
Sure.
What should be returned? Like it's just,
I'm just returning an errors, right? There's a errors list of strings, right? So I'm just piggybacking on that to indicate
But-
that group mapping.
should it be an error, Enrique? Like I would think it should just return a response that indicates it's already there for the client to just work transparently. Because otherwise you have to add error handling on the client, right?
I could be inclined to do that, but like, is that a pattern that you've seen elsewhere from now? That
Well, anything that the user wants to do. Okay, so user wants to do something, but we can't do it for any XY reason, right? So that's an anomaly that has to be indicated to the user. So like there are two, you can divide this into two categories. Okay, what you wanted to do, we did it. The other is, no, we couldn't do it for XYZ reason. The other way to do it is we could do it, we don't need to do it, something went wrong. So it depends on how you decide to use these, right? So either you have two categories or more than two categories of responses. So yeah, error just felt like a natural thing for me, but
You know what the precedent
what do
is
you guys?
for other create type mutations, like in this scenario where you're just creating a mapping and not necessarily providing any data?
Yeah, I'm not returning any data.
No,
It's-
like is there in other create APIs at GitLab, like is there a precedent for raising an error or?
Good question. I haven't checked that, but that's just something like I've done in the past. So
Okay, but like here it's relevant because
Mhm.
the simplest thing to do and avoid writing code on the front end is to just have it return it like it's created. And you know, the front end doesn't care because it's the mapping's there. And it would only be problematic if in the future we ever added, you know, some metadata that might have needed to be updated, but that's
one reason why I don't think we should. Okay. So before I say, like, are we saying that it's okay to just swallow this edge case as like not returning an error? Because I think if that's what the suggestion is, then we should be very careful because somebody else could have created the map. So you could have this scenario where somebody else has created a mapping, and now another user tries to create the same mapping, and we swallow the error. We kind of let the user believe that he's the creator, but it's not. He's not the creator. Somebody else created it before, right? So and we do save the creator ID in the table.
Creator already is metadata.
Yes,
That's a good observation. It's like
Yes.
the behavior of just like swallowing the well, not the effort, but like having like that implicit behavior in the API. We are not communicating to the user that something happened
Yes.
elsewhere. So we should have like some sort of signal for that. If that's an
Yeah.
error, that's fine.
I'm like, if there's something else, like, a warning or something, yeah, sure. But I don't really
There's not
know.
like a concept of a warning. It's just like you return the error field, and I think that's the way that the GraphQL works. Like you just return an error field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the front end, what I would do is that rather than like treating this as an effort, I could use it as a signal that the UI will be updated, and I'm gonna notify the user that the map had been created before by another user. But it wouldn't be like an error state because it's not. I don't think it's an error.
Right. So the graph
Yeah.
API is returning an error, but you're going to present it differently. So this
Yeah.
is okay to add as a requirement to this issue for the API. And then over here, we need to add a criteria that you handle the error state from this issue. That makes sense?
Yes.
If the we do you want to have a note on this to Taylor to add a little bit to that to the design, but I don't think we necessarily need to throw this back in refinement for that. Is that cool?
Yep.
Okay, I'll make a note down here. Okay, that one's good. We still haven't weighted this. All right, are we ready to weight it now? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now, now Vishal is doing.
I swear that was not intentional. It is only that was 3.
Everybody had a 3? Okay.
Yes.
Although very convenient, but that was not intentional.
Okay, good. So that was which one? This one. So now we're on to this one. Unmap.
Yes.
Okay, Enrique.
This is very similar to the previous one, but in this case, that button also appears in the Allowed Agents tab. And unlike the mapping button, when you click that block, the block button, it should remove the row from the Allowed Agents table. It's also using calling a different mutation, GraphQL mutation, according to the design docs. So it's just like implementing the other client-side resolver. I can build on top of the previous work that I did with the with the mapping button, with the allow button. So it should reduce complexity a bit, in my opinion. But there is still like some different behavior between the two buttons.
Okay, and so same deal on the other one. Let's be diligent and ensure that we add a, so we already have if to add a mapping which already exists, and separately attempting to remove which does not exist. And same thing here. There. Handle. Good enough. And I'll just make a quick note to Taylor for this one too. Okay, we ready? Wait, this one?
So I do have one question, right, real quick. The screenshot there, I think, so when you unmap, you'd be, I've got a different screenshot that shows that there's also a modal being shown as a confirmation because it's a destructive action to remove it that impacts kind of down the line what users can create workspaces with. So just want to make sure that we're on the same page there.
Oh, I didn't see
So here-
that screen in the
Let me,
in the UX issue.
I just dropped it in the chat. But yeah, so there's, just so I'm understanding that that relates to this issue, because I believe, yeah, when, how it's in, I designed the intent was, yeah, what, you can't just click block and have it happen. There's an additional step where you have to confirm.
I completely missed that. Yeah, I should update the issue. Let me update the issue and add the correct the screenshot now. Thank you, Taylor.
I'll just put a note in it for now. We don't need to, that doesn't mean this has to be re-refined.
Could you add oh yeah, exactly. We just need to add that extra point.
Okay. Why is there an extra space here? Weird. Okay. Now we're ready? Uno, dos, tres.
And just like 2.5, then I want to hide my third finger there.
I was a 2, so everyone else is a 3.
But yeah,
Okay,
I think
finally
it's
I have balloons. I finally have balloons. Sorry, go ahead. I'm
I saw
speaking
some.
nonsense.
No, it's true. I think that I saw them.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for you want to argue for a 2, Vishal?
I thought it was like you click on block, it shows a model and it's just a confirmation model and will just make a GraphQL API call, right?
Yeah, just a confirmation model, like it involves some plumbing.
No, of course, I don't mean to simplify it that way,
No.
but I'm just
That's
Just
why
some
like, I thought
HTML.
based on Now, based on what we estimated for the previous issues, it felt like a 2. That is why, but again, I could
I'm
be
also a bit ambivalent about it. There is also another requirement that is that we should remove the item from the table. I don't know. I don't want to overestimate complexity, but I'm between a 2 and a 3.
It's better to
But
overestimate in that case.
yeah,
If you're not 100% sure on that,
I feel the
I'm
same.
fine with the 3.
Yeah, like it's making a new model, the logic for that, this message. I can see it similar to the other one, but the model was what put me from a 2 to a 3.
Me too.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Around
Can you just add a to-do over here for Enrique to update the design requirements just so that we don't miss it?
I added this
Oh, all right.
here. It
Sure.
should, and that'll remind you to update the screenshot, right, Enrique?
Sorry.
This task will remind you to update the
Yes. Yes.
requirements. Cool. I think it's interesting, like how Enrique and I, our estimates match more, having worked more with the view code.
We know the pain. We felt it.
Okay. On that, okay, pop over.
Yeah, so this is about this, like showing this popover with more details about the agent when the user hover or that element gets activated. I mean that it has like the focus, the keyboard focus. I think there is no more to say about that. I think that hopefully like this data is already available in the GraphQL query. So it shouldn't be especially complex. No more than just like displaying that component in there.
Do we have the number of connected workspaces as a field in the
No.
GraphQL API? Is that specified?
You'll have to do what do you say, aggregation over the database and need that so you don't have it directly exposed.
Okay.
So this would require more backend work for it to come up.
Do we need to make add an issue for that?
One
The
question.
one
do we
thing
see
I-
this is sorry, Tim,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I was
ahead,
just
go
going to say the need for connected workspaces has not been validated. That's just me making, hey, I think this would be useful because the decisions here could impact these workspaces from that perspective. But I just want to clarify that this is not validated. This is something that we could add in later and it's not required. Just want to make it clear that this is just an
That is
idea
what I was
that
going to
out there.
ask, whether it's a hard requirement or if we can push it down the link. I think we should push it
Absolutely not a hard requirement. Yeah.
Oh, we can put a note in there then, and I don't know. Well, we should probably like if we want to consider it, create a follow-up issue, and we can break it down into front-end and back-end requirements later.
I think it's good to have. It's like it doesn't add a lot of complexity to the query. It's just in the it'll maybe be a new finder or no, it'll just be an additional field in whatever finder we write for this, I believe. Does that sound right, Gunnar?
I'm not
I'm
sure.
wondering if even if that is the case, I'm wondering if we need to run an aggregation query just to expose that information, like if we really don't need it for most of the cases. Again, I'm fine. I'm just wondering what the
I mean,
impact would be, because if every time someone is trying to create a workspace, the list of allowed agents would come up. And I'm assuming that list would contain it would use the same GraphQL API, and it would have that count of workspaces already in for that agent.
But there's indexes on, like, these are going to use the indexes that exist on the join table, right? So it's not a performance concern.
Okay.
I don't believe, right, Hunar?
I'm not sure. This will have to be like, it depends on the workspaces table, right? Do we have an index
No, you
on?
don't even have to join the workspaces. You just like see how many, like, is it active workspaces or like total workspaces?
So
I
I
mean-
think non-terminated.
Non-terminated. Okay, so then
That again is debatable. Like non-terminated, like does that include the ones that are being terminated right now?
yeah, that
It gets messy at that
I
this
think
point.
that pushes this into we want to do a follow-up.
Yeah,
We need
I
a
think that's-
backend issue for this, and we should do it as a follow.
All right, I see you writing, Taylor. You're gonna take that. We can just say in here, we're not gonna do the connected in this one.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. What is it like, connected? Okay. Anything else? Are we ready?
There
Cool.
is,
What?
wait, we're not doing this, right? So why are we estimating this?
No, we're doing the rest of the popover. We're just not doing adding
Oh.
the workspaces.
He's just removing that field.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right.
Um.
Bye or not.
Uh.
Bye.
1, 2, 3. You gave it a 2? Okay. I'm fine with the 2. It seemed like we're already gonna have this data in the component, and it's literally just like adding a popover and a few attributes. But why do you think it's a 2, Enrique?
Probably because like I find that I don't know, it's more related than to my interpretation of a 1 complexity that I see it as not requiring test changes or so I think that it has a complexity that is slightly above that.
Like,
I gave it a 2 because it would make a GraphQL, an API call to get that information, right? Where is the project name, who created it, whether it is connected or not. So again, it's like along with the API, you make a GraphQL call, and that's what I do.
I thought that was included in the graph. That the data was included in the GraphQL query that displays the
I honestly
list of
don't know.
agents.
well, you can write it that way, like it's GraphQL. You can include the project
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will have to write a new query for this. Okay, I get it. The project name and status. I was thinking this would just be using the existing mapping data.
I think that would be the ideal way, which is when we are listing the allowed agents, you just have that GraphQL and store that data in the state, and just whenever they do a popover, you can show that.
Yeah, I think that's the way Enrique will do it, but that's the way I would do it. Just have a single query that gets all the stuff you need. All right, yeah, I'm definitely a 2 on that. I wasn't thinking that there'd be a new query involved. Cool.
All right.
Yeah. All right, last one.
Yes, so this issue is about replacing the GraphQL mutation query. There are 2 aspects to this. First, we are changing the GraphQL query to get the available agents in the create workspace UI. And I'm unsure if we have to change the parameters that we are passing to the create workspace mutation. Do you know that, Chad?
I think we need to update it, Chad. This is related to what we were talking about earlier before your day started, which is the create workspace UI assumes something about the agent based on the project that you've selected, right? That logic is trying to emulate the backend authorization logic, and that needs to be fixed, updated as part of this,
For
right?
create, I don't think so. Like create just
I mean, when you're creating a workspace, the first thing that you do is select a project, and then it will show
the
you a
drop
list
down.
of available agents. That available agent is based upon the root group of the project that was selected, right? And it's subgroups and everything, and it does recursive queries on all of them. So that logic will have to be replaced with the new logic that is, what are the allowed workspaces for this particular project?
Agents.
Sorry, what are the allowed agents for this particular project?
Yes, you're right. So that should be straightforward. It'll involve just writing a new query against the APIs that already exist and just using that. And then we'll already have all of the actual UI and plumbing in place to
But
display.
we'll need to keep both of them. Like the new query has to be behind the feature flag, but
That's
the
what I was
existing
gonna
one
say.
has to.
That's the hard part, the having a feature flag. But that as well, I think, is just going to be not that hard. You just pick which query you execute and
Yes.
logic. Do you
Yes.
agree, Enrique?
Will you repeat the question?
Like even having the old behavior behind a feature flag is not going to be that difficult. Like we're gonna write the new
No.
query and we're just gonna have a feature flag around whatever the two paths.
Yes, that
Right.
shouldn't be significantly complex.
So can we just write down the requirements over the, like, is the acceptance criteria enough? Should we just say the existing behavior stays as it is, while if the feature flag is enabled?
Yeah, we should just mention the feature flag. Good enough.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I only know
1,
three languages.
2.
1, 2, 3. 2. All right, I can go to 2 again.
Taylor has a 3 if he wants to get us to a 3. I'm
It
fine.
just seemed confusing to me. That's why more than the other ones. But yeah, I don't feel strongly about that.
Yeah, the code.
I always join the higher estimate, so I can take some Fridays off.
Like the trickiest part of this is like writing the test for feature flags always kind of hurts your head. It's like you test the true and false case, and then like how do you want to structure the test? But it's not that hard.
And we also have the end-to-end test to account for. This can
They all have feature flags
get over my
behind.
hands. It can get out of hands. But I'm gonna be optimistic about it and say it too.
So the end-to-end, oh yeah. So the end-to-end test, this is going to break the QA and end-to-end test because we'll have to make them, we're going to have to add logic to them and page objects to create the mapping before they will work. So we're assuming that's going to be part of this as well.
I'm
if
sorry, why
if
would
the
the
key,
end-to-end test fail?
So the end-to-end tests, like they're capybara tests and they're clicking through. And currently there's just like an agent that exists. I'm not sure if they assume that
Will the feature flag be on for the end-to-end test?
feature
for the
flags are
feature
always on
test,
in the test environment.
yeah, you have to write tests for both feature flag off and feature flag on.
In which case, this is going to increase the scope.
Yeah.
So Taylor was right.
Well, no, the gist test won't be that hard. You just have to test the UI. But I'm saying we need to work with Nivita to however they set up the agent, it also needs to have the mapping. I don't know if that's part of the test or if it's part of that, but let's like just make a note to say work with QA to ensure that the end-to-end test is updated.
Yeah.
Updated and ensure that a proper something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, does that still lead us to the 2 or? Because it will
It's
be
an estimate. So I think that if we get if it becomes more complex than that, I can create a follow-up issue.
yeah, it's
What
not
do you
going to be
think?
part of this issue in any case, I don't think so.
Yeah.
We have 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I think this was a good example. This was a good example of why we have IPMs and why they're synced. Like a lot of things came out and various people brought up different things that we weren't thinking about. Any comments?
Thanks for driving the IPMs as always.
Thank you,
I know
Chad.
when I try to when I even attempt to do this, I fail miserably. So I know how difficult it is to drive this.
Let's see when this is going to get done based on my current velocity. It is
Is it gonna be 2024?
and well, we don't have team strength, so like this, nothing's getting done this week. So add a week to everything. Like in Pivotal Tracker, for example, you can click here and say team strength summit week 0, and it will like not put any points in that iteration. But we're at May, so yeah, mid-May, just for what we have now on this front end work and whatever we got in progress.
Nice.
And considering that we are not working next week in the
Yeah.
because of the summit, yeah, honestly that's a very accurate estimate. That's reasonable for me. The next 2 weeks are gonna be very well. We are not work a lot.
Well, this is assuming that everybody on the team is working on these, like, which isn't going to be the case, right? We'll be prioritizing other things, but we definitely have stuff on the roadmap. That's why I told our new PM, like, take her time with our onboarding. We've all got plenty to do. There's no hurry. Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chad. Have a great
Thank
rest of your
you.
day, everyone.
See you at Summit.
Bye.
Yeah.